Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad to see you all here tonight. I need to double check to make sure all the poets are here because it looks like I'm missing a person. So we'll just make it work. Okay. So happy to have everyone here. If you could raise your hand if you're one of the presenters tonight. I want to make sure I have everybody in my camera. Okay, very, very good. So tonight we're going to start with Roberta Batorsky, and she's going to read from her book Prolific, and I think she's also going to read some other poetry as well. All yours, Roberta.
Good evening, everybody. My voice is a little bit scratchy since I'm getting over a virus. The book that Lisa is helping me publish and market is called Perihelion, and I have some selections. I'll read from that, but I wanted to start. Correct me if I'm wrong. Would you like us to read for 15 minutes?
Yes, everyone has that time frame.
I won't take that long, but I'd like to start with some poems that are not in this collection. My first poem, hopefully they'll be in the next collection. My first poem is called Poem of Place. It's written for my sister-in-law, Kirsten. The tiny minnows are gone from Thorntown Creek with early winter's arrival. Kids with homemade pipe rods fish there till October, claim they caught stripers on the way up the Delaware, past the falls at Trenton to spawn in the Delaware Bay. But it's unlikely. The white-tailed deer are rutting, moving deliberately and silently, triggered by the change in photo period to find a mate. Fat squirrels scramble to collect acorns, nuts, even tree bark for nesting, berry food for safety. These seed future trees. Perennial streams like Thorntown and Black's Creek flow through the year. Insects live in the deeper water, sometimes below the ice. Caddisflies, damselflies, stoneflies, the misnamed mayflies. The stream banks collect compacted golden leaves. Slender saplings spring up there. Strong roots anchor the soil. Fall finds place for this incarnation I live in. Not the vibrant expansion of summer still to come, but purpose and collection as everything buried rests.
Thank you. I love how you go into the nature of life.
This is called Better Living Through Poetry. Poets arrogate to themselves virtue, purity, reason, insight, power, as if they alone, by vocation, are empowered to sort through and elevate our paltry, common emotions to the realm of rhyme. Lofty, elegant, and so discerning, lacework, linen, and cut glass. The baseness of our everyday, simple, unadorned experiences, hardly the subjects of rhyme, in a poet's hands are transformed adroitly into villanelles, befitting the troubadours, and sonorous metered sonnets. Our heartbreaks, losses, missteps are memorialized in sweet verse, so clever as to shadow our sun in its brilliance and provide sustenance as we clamber awkwardly through our lives, living lots better in their words than ever we could.
Thank you.
A little bit of irony there. This is called the Pickle Man on Avenue U. Acetic acid fumes permeate my lungs for blocks in every direction. His handsome oaken vats proudly display their shiny green pickles and imperfect globes of unripe tomatoes, exuberantly bobbing in their brine. Gherkin, sour, dill, half sour, Polish, kosher, bread and butter. The golden ratio is 3-2-1, vinegar, water, sugar. A liberal dosing of petite pearl onions or cipolline accelerate the sourness. The pickle man's long tongs are spring-loaded for efficiency, locking, clamping fiercely onto the globes and submarines, precisely depositing them in wax paper bags for me. He, pickle midwife. The elongated capsules nudge each other. 3 for 2 bits for you. Best deal on the avenue, all Brooklyn even. They come from the whole world for such a pickle. Such a delight. He smacks his lips at me to demonstrate their tartness. Mwah! Geschmack! My Shana Punim. Spazier by my humble stand. Claim your pickle prize. Even now, the pickle crunch transports me back to the bittersweet streets of my Brooklyn.
Thank you. Wonderful.
You have to be from Brooklyn to get these. I'll read from one more, and then if I have time, I'll move to the collection. This is called The Man in Tan, and it's about my experiences teaching in the state prison. There was a death in the prison yesterday. The yard's abuzz with it. Probably drugs smuggled in by guards or visitors like me. My students are strip searched. Classes are delayed. I wait. These young men are being rehabilitated to lead ethical lives and make choices worthy of them, to live up to the effort their families put in. Moms like me, with hopes for them, like me for my son. Now someone's son is gone. Wrong path taken inside, too. The yard's abuzz with it. Not an example, just a tragedy. The tension level ratchets up. I walk the steep, narrow gauntlet between 2 facing benches filled with young men in tan, talking animatedly, who stop as I pass. Did one of them provide the drugs? Some knew him. They are watching me. I walk past them the first time, near tears. 40 pairs of eyes, young lives on pause. May start fresh, my wish for them. Drugs, evil flowers, poison the blossom of our youth. The yard's abuzz with it.
Excellent.
I'm moving to the collection. Moving to the collection and reading a poem called Soup Dumpling, about my discovery of a phenomenon in Chinese food, written for my friend Zue. Hard to describe this wonderful treat. Yummy, so good to eat. A Chinese source of national pride. Is it soup or a dumpling? You decide. Be careful, don't pierce it. Leave the casing unsplit. Slurp it, suck it. I'll be your guide. Is it soup or a dumpling? You decide. Catch the drips with a spoon. If it opens too soon, 2 worlds here collide. Soup or a dumpling? You decide. Slice it open so softly, eat it with green tea. Down your gullet it glides. Find something wonderful inside. Soup or dumpling? You decide.
Roberta, there's a question in the chat from Tina. She wants to know if you have a book with the Brooklyn theme throughout.
No, I don't, but that's a good suggestion. It's something I'll consider. I'd like to. Thanks for your question. It's a good question. It's something I'll think about. The last poem I'll read is called Smaller Than a Fingernail. It's for my son. A tiny stray seed springs from my hope, implants in me amid the weeds and sand. Nourished by tears and blood, You force my vessels to detour past you. My diaphragm resists your kicks as you grow to fit your velvet hollow home. Once we melded, shared smell, taste, and warmth, until birth's privilege of breath, space, and time. Now the distance between us is infinite. Imagine you still move in me, and from that tendency garner support and strength to grow and live until you find every love you need and quit the search.
Thank you so much, Roberta.
Thank you. I
Fantastic.
enjoy reading them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's a question.
Yes, go right
So,
ahead.
do you know where you, sorry, just joined a little late. Do you know where you, is this like a collection of poems? And do you know like where you can find them?
Well, some of them are in my book that's published by Lisa, and I don't know whether you're going to be able to see it because of the
Yeah, I
Zoom.
can see it.
It's called Perihelion,
Hmm.
and it's available through Amazon,
Oh, okay.
and it was just published. Um, the poems I began with, which maybe you didn't get a chance to hear, are newer than Perihelion
Hmm.
and will be incorporated into a future collection.
Hmm.
Thanks for your question.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And you can go to prolificpulse.com and you can find everyone's books on there too. And all the different
What's that?
avenues you can use to buy them.
Can you say that again?
Prolificpulse.com.
Prolificpoems.com.
Prolificpulse.com. I'll put it in the
Oh, okay.
chat.
Thank you.
I'll put it in the chat. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks, Roberta. We'll move to Laura Lee Clark. Laura Lee, what's happening in your world?
Hello, good to be here. Thank you so much for organizing this, Lisa. This is really wonderful. Um, unlike Roberta, I'm gonna start with a poem from Solemnity Rights, and then I'm gonna branch out. Um, so I'm gonna read a poem called Gravity. It's a surprise every time when I see a beetle, but it's really a brittle curled leaf. A thin stick, but it's a dried worm. A bit of bumpy rock, but it's a tiny toad. And I wonder, are the seasons simply inhalations and exhalations? The pupils of my eyes black holes? Am I pulled forever in because even gravity cannot escape? Is it a flattened squirrel or shred of tire in the road? Dung or a cicada casing? Flower petals or tiny, furry white aphids of a sort. These ambiguities shouldn't surprise me. After all, the solar system is perhaps an atom with its massive empty space and small orbiting particles, like the sky and oceans of the earth, so vast and uninterrupted. The carbon in my body was formed in a star over billions of years ago. My organs, or the Earth's, lungs, or rainforests, isn't it all the same? I breathe out spring, aware, after all, that sometimes all of life is the same to the gravity of our eyes.
Thank you.
Thanks. And then the second poem I'm going to read comes with a little story. I was visiting my friend Kara, who I went to graduate school with. She's in Illinois. And I said, I'm just going to pop upstairs for a minute. I'm going to check my email. I'll be right back down. And when I went upstairs, I had gotten an email from Nude Bruce Review. And they said, we are nominating you for a 2026 Pushcart Prize. And that was phenomenal in and of itself. But I was nominated for the poem that was nominated was the one I had written for my friend Kara. And I just happened to be visiting her. So it was very serendipitous. It was lovely. And it's in my latest chapbook that came out 2 weeks ago from Bottle Cap Press. The chapbook is called Delighting in to Be, Poems for Writers. And this is the poem that's been nominated for the 2026 Pushcart Prize. It's called The Path, Ways to Help a Creative, for Kara. Bring them water, apply the salve, cut the wood and double it, sort the laundry, excuse the piled dishes, their crusty excess. Make the tea, add the sugar, welcome the sunlight and pull the weeds, rub the sore muscles, move the rock, fill the glass again and again. When they judge their work, themselves, remind them it's not good or bad, it's just a part of the process. Remind them it's difficult forging your own path without a model or mentor. Weigh the grain, mill the flour, feed the starter, and begin again. Bring them water.
I can see why that was nominated.
Oh, thank you. That's very sweet.
Actually,
I had another book published last week by Dancing Girl Press, and it's called Harmony in the Key of Trees, A Healing Myth. And it's a different sort of chapbook. It's instead of it just being a collection of poems around a certain theme, it's a collection of poems that has a very strong narrative through it and focuses on character, Mina. And this is a poem that was first published in the Taborian. It's called Alchemy. Mina looks to the trees, her landscape, to help parent her. And so this is a little bit about Mina. Alchemy. She twists two strips of cloth around the crabapple's trunk, cording the cotton fibers layer after layer, an offering for the white petals she plucks and tapes onto cool blue painted pages, perfect corollas. When she leaves the maple, she polishes the roots with sweaty, greasy fingers, surrounded by grass blades, jutted with moss and violets. The leaves she glued in the notebook dry and crack, pieces flake off. Mina stores them in an envelope with a plastic window, learns to tape the leaves onto the pages. When she writes over them, she feels the pen's nib breaking through each cell wall, her body registering the thin depressions as a new shape is pushed into both their bodies. Borrowing a magnifying glass, Mina spends one weekend studying the fine hairs on some leaves, sculpts petioles and ribs from clay, paints them in greens and browns. She draws all the shapes she sees in the leaves, cutting them with tiny scissors, releasing the chlorophyll, smearing white pages green, painting her fingers and knuckles with thousands of chloroplasts, like so many tadpoles in a pond. Like thunderstorms, Mina is a cloud mingling with air pressure, fungal spores, smoke, ash, temperature. Mina doesn't recognize yet. She isn't creating a remedy. She is the remedy. So the last poem that I'm going to read is a poem from a book that's going to come out in the spring called Neolithic Imaginings, Mythical Explorations of the Unknown. And I look at 15 or 16 different Neolithic monuments from Wales and Ireland and Scotland and England. Of course, I think the most well-known is Stonehenge, which is in there, but I'm going to read a poem about Swinside, which is a henge in England. Swinside, holy engineering. We listen, learn relationship, study the patterns of fish scales, flower petals, of the stars above and the rocks under our feet. Touch the spirals of a pine cone, a snail's shell, a ram's horn. See the never-ending patterns of leaves, tree branches, and limbs. Closer now, an apple's core, beeswax cells, solid and sure. We bounce off these patterns, molding, rotting, blossoming, and changing, sharing stories, vessels of particles, bumptious, desirous of connection and understanding, as we align ourselves with the stars' patterns, those sublime circles. We listen as the light's steady telling shows the measurements, and so we mark the earth, dig and secure stones where lichens will grow, where cracks form, where ancient memories are embedded. Mark where they will comfortably live in the soil. Come to know us through our songs and breath. Give them a new home in this circle. Time, that cyclical ancestor, is like a snake's skin, is a slow motion, deep dance, affording the stones wiser agency. We learn to see with these first eyes of the world in dialogue with the sky as we continue to lay this circle, this unity, potential. We make this seed, move its shape 60 times, carve through these rough stones that scuff and callous themselves in our heart, bring ourselves closer to sky's energy. This magic is embedded in our bones as we become a key, turning in a lock, laid in this circle, knitted intimacy.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you very much.
Goodness.
Hi.
Hi, Melissa.
My cat keeps trying to get in on what's going on here. So I'm just going to be reading from Broken Renge, which is the book that Nolcha Fox, Barbara Leonard, and myself wrote and have published with Prolific Pulse Press. If you haven't picked up your copy yet, it's available. It's funny. So here I go. I have 15 minutes, right?
Yes.
Okay. The first poem I'm going to read is called Glazed. Your eyes are glazed donuts, pricked by thistles of thoughts that haunt your dreams years later. I've no bacon to go with my eggs. I don't eat bacon. It would be haunting to eat piglets. At least no living thing dies when we eat glazed donuts, just dreams. How many calories in dreams? Nom nom nom. I jog 10 miles per hour, fiercely pounding the pavement in my sleep. I run with a donut in one hand and a calorie counter in the other. Now, these are all poems that are 6 stanzas long, and we alternate between Nolcha, Barbara, me, or whatever order we wrote them in. So each poem is written by 3 people. It's somebody's fault. I finally sit after serving everyone breakfast. The cat drank my coffee. The dog steals all the chocolate and drinks my coffee while I clean up the wrappers. The parrot's watching my fresh cup of coffee and will tell me who empties it if I give her some gluten-free crackers. I taught her to say, "She did it." It only bites me in the ass sometimes. Crackers, chocolate, pizza, pancakes, fudge, cherry pie. If I eat it, it sits on my ass or thighs. When my husband asks who ate his bag of Snickers, I say, "She did it." This
Thank you.
one's called, yeah, I was going to read a few more because they're all pretty short. This one's called Music to My Sawed Off Ears. This not music is sandpaper and saw to sensitive ears. Polar bears and elephants scream and flee from the noise to the next great extinction. Barred owls hoot to gunfire, calling their broods to save the spotted owl, their fallen feathers illegal to gather. Woodland habitats degraded and destroyed for agricultural production. Our ears are deaf to howling death. We cannot tell if we cause ruin or we rebuild. How long must we endure the deafening silence of vanishing bees? I stir local wildflower honey into my chamomile tea. I'll read two more. This one's called Pain Will Do That. Pain is the perfect weight loss plan. Food tastes bitter. Even cheesecake makes me flee. Holding a pen too long, my wrists ask me for ibuprofen. If I could, I'd challenge pain to a duel. My titanium joints, my weapons. I'm a cyborg, pain. Get ready. Pain is my cane. I wave it at the world. Don't mess with a crabby old lady. I meditate, sitting quietly. I focus on my breath. In my flower garden with the sweet aroma of roses. But those bees, those stinging bees. And then let me find the last one. This one's my favorite. 17. This one is my favorite. It's called They Won't Let Us Back Again. We poets trashed the hotel room. We shattered the window to toss Bukowskis and Plath's ghosts in the pool. They were downers anyway. They floated out of the water as though baptized. They ordered biscuits and booze at the bar. Sylvia said the biscuits were overdone, too crunchy. Then she fell asleep. She left crumbs in the sheets and spilled wine and sleeping pills on the pillows. Charlie put his cigarettes out on the mattress. We tossed the two renegade poets out the window again and slipped past reception without paying the bill. Two phantoms of Hemingway's cats met us outside. Time to pay up, they said.
That's great. Melissa, y'all did a great job with this book. You want to explain about what Ringay is? Maybe some people
Sure.
don't know that form.
Yeah, I thought after I started, oh, I should probably do that. So on page, well, it's before the first page, but in the very front, there's a description. It says Renge is a form of linked verse created by Gary Gay in California in 1992. It consists of 6 haiku verses that share a common theme. It was designed as an alternative to Renga or Renku. It is common to see Renge composed by one person or by 2, 3, or 6. The pattern of 2 and 3 line stanzas for a Renge depends on the number of writers. The poems in this book used Renge as a guide, and they are each written by 3 writers and composed of stanzas alternating haiku-like verses in lines of 3-2, 3-2, 3-2. So the first person writes a 3-line stanza that's a haiku-like verse, and if you're familiar with haiku, people say 5-7-5 as a guide, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. As long as it's short, long, short, that's a haiku-like verse. And then the second person would write a 2-line stanza, and that one typically is somewhere around 7 and 7 syllables. So you alternate these 3 and 2-line haiku-like verses. It sounds a little bit more complicated than it really is, but all of the 3-line stanzas are roughly 5-7-5, and then the 2 lines are 7-7, except when Nolcha and Barbara and I write them, we just kind of throw all that to the wind, and I do try to stick somewhat close to the syllabic count, and Nolcha and Barbara just say, no, we're not doing. So that's how we ended up deciding on broken renge, unruly poetry, because we used that as a guide, but we didn't follow it strictly. And I love writing with them. It's such an honor to write with them. We used Google Docs and just pass it back and forth, and it's really fun. I would say if you're interested in syllabic poetry or any of the Japanese forms, it's great fun to write together using them.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thrilled to join you. I've had the honor of co-editing 4 anthologies with Lisa. I think Prolific Pulse Press LLC is the absolute best. And so I'm going to share an excerpt from my intro to Social Possibilities, this beautiful anthology, and then I'll read a poem from that and share some of my other pieces. So when Lisa came to me with this idea, I was thrilled because the timing is perfect. Social Possibilities is a literary sanctuary of hope at a time of heightened uncertainty and distress. We assembled global poetic voices to ease our growing anxieties. Rather than ignore the challenges facing our humanity, we lean in to acknowledge them while remaining hopeful. This collection features poems that address themes of unity and serenity, ranging from calm to intense. From the first poem, I Let Go, through the last poem, Into the Light, these expressions are a compelling call to action. I'm going to share one of my poems that is featured in the book, and it's titled Keep Going. We are mustard seeds in this colossal universe. We are champions of hope. We are a communal forest, trees anchored deep within the earth. We stand upright and determined. Our presence requires us to act, to imagine infinite possibilities, to reach toward the heavens, to change the status quo, to advocate for justice, to speak out, to be better. Never give arms and hearts. Use tension as fuel. Eyes fixed ahead, declare triumph. Every step forward is progress, from the first daring step to the gallant march to the valiant leap. We are entrenched and ever blooming. Keep hoping, keep loving, keep going. End of piece.
Thank you.
My second poem has been featured in 3 of my publications, and it's titled What Matters. And I even created and published with Prolific Pulse Press a journal titled What Matters Journal. So this poem was nominated for a Pushcart Prize, and it's basically my signature poem. It's always requested, so I'm going to share with you what matters. If your eyes met my eyes in the midst of a crisis, would their shape and color concern you? If you felt my hands as they massaged your aching body, would you care about the pigmentation of my skin? If I gave blood to replenish your low supply, would you need to know that I looked like you? If you were drowning and I dove in to assist you, would you reach toward me if you knew I was gay? If you were hearing for the first time in your life, would you need for my voice to speak English only? If your loved one lay sick and dying, would it matter to which God I prayed? If I donated money to support your favorite cause, would you refuse it if you knew how I voted? If the size of my heart increased each time I helped somebody, would you be more interested in the size of my body? If you asked me to walk a mile in support of humanity, would you get impatient if I used my wheelchair? If I said no and you assaulted me anyway, are you less guilty because I waited to report? If my family seeks asylum in the USA, are we not welcome because our border is to your south? If the police force keeps killing unarmed citizens, would you demand justice if they are African American? With civil unrest during this global pandemic, trust me, we will soon realize what matters. Now, this was published first in 2020, thus the reference to the global pandemic. My next poem is featured in another collection published by Prolific Pulse Press. Isn't this an awesome family we share? This poem is titled One Day. One day, houses will be filled with people, not homeless anymore. One day, clean water will flow freely from the earth's core. One day, opportunities for all children will follow God's plan. One day, inequality disappears as justice reigns over the land. One day, the air is clear because we cared for Mother Earth. One day, food is plentiful because we'll reward the farmer's worth. One day, teachers are heralded as sculptors of tomorrow. One day, students have all they need without a need to borrow. One day, hatred is replaced by love which overflows. One day, greed is erased while love steadily grows. One day, we'll have no wars. Fighting no longer exists. One day, across the globe, only goodness will persist. One day, our world returns to the garden that God created. One day, peace results from knowing we are all related. One day, we'll welcome families no matter how they look. One day, patience will rule despite how long it took. One day, respect becomes a non-negotiable trait. One day, humanity is restored before it is too late. Let's make one day today. End of piece.
Excellent.
Thank you. My next poem is found in another publication by Prolific Pulse Press, my book Encore. In this book, I have a poem titled Now You Know, honoring Congressman John Lewis. Had they known he would be a noble statesman, would they have hosed the protesters on Selma's Bloody Sunday? Had they known he was there to spark good trouble, would they have let their horses overrun the crowd? Had they known he would lead this nation's Peace Corps, would they have cruelly beaten him with billy clubs? Had they known he would compose great books and legislation, Would they have intentionally fractured his skull? Had they known he would sit across from US presidents, would they have defended Jim Crow and corruption? Had they known he would secure voting rights for all, would they have called him, would they have tear gassed everyone within reach? Had they known he would rise in American history, would they have brutally knocked him to the ground? Had they known he'd be called the conscience of Congress, would they have called him all those terrible names? Had they known he'd received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, would they have forcefully and repeatedly locked him up? Had they known he'd lie in state as an honored official, would they have deterred his crossing of that bridge? There is at least one John Lewis in every peaceful protest. No excuses. Now you know. End of piece.
Thank you.
I'm going to share a poem that has not yet been published, and it'll appear in my next book, or a book to be published by Prolific Pulse Press in 2026. And this one is a little lighter. It's called How to Treat a Woman. Everything you need to know is written in the fabric of our lives. Read the label. See what we're made of. Silk, satin, cotton, soft, organic, luxurious. Wool, merino, alpaca, cashmere, no polyester. 100% absorbable, 100% breathable. Notice the divine craftsmanship, delicate, reinforced, darned, double-stitched, slip-stitched, cross-stitched, running stitch, zigzag, top-stitched, knotted, buttoned up, pre-shrunk, time-tested, tightly woven. Carefully follow the instructions. No dry cleaning, no whip stitching, lay flat to dry, hand wash only, no steam, cool iron only when needed. In other words, handle with care. End of piece.
Thank you.
I don't know if I have time for one last poem. Do I have time for one more since we were interrupted? I can end now.
Yeah, it's fine.
Fine to go?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll end with my poem, Why I Write. I watched Nikki Giovanni trip over her ego. I witnessed the phenomenal Maya Angelou rise. How could I not be totally mesmerized? Countless strong women preceded me, surrounded me, nurtured me. I honor them as I nudge the next wave of strong women to write, trip, rise. My pen, my weapon, my best friend, mouthpiece for my muse. It remembers what Nikki said. It remembers what Maya said. It remembers what my parents said. It shares my truth as it repeats what God says. I write to spread love. I write to heal, help, an honor. I write to leave a footprint, my literary mark. I want my great, great, great grandchildren to know that I was here. I want them to know how and what I felt. I want them to speak their truth. I want them to know what matters. This is why I write. End of piece, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Zan. Would you please pick a number?
I will be reading 5 poems from Cancer Court's My Mother. And in the book, the remission poems come as a flashback, but I'm going to read one of the remission poems first with a little story. My mother had battled cancer, and this was Remission Christmas, which was just astonishingly hopeful for the family. And since I was traveling alone, I sent everything from New York to Florida ahead. And one of the things I sent was a bulb, an amaryllis bulb. My mother put all of the presents under the tree until I got there. And in the Florida heat, the amaryllis bulb came alive and started to move and make noise in the box. And my parents couldn't figure out what was going on. Did they have mice all of a sudden? Was the tree shorting out? And so forth. And this is a poem about the amaryllis that came to life. It's called Remembering Remission Christmas. They bickered over her like 2 suitors, Vitality, her birthright, who had known my mother well before her married life, and Cancer, who'd mapped out his own terrain, unraveled secret strands of resistance until oncologist chased him away. Remission Christmas reunited us, our joy like steam escaping after frost. I shipped my gifts to Florida ahead, biscotti, pinola cookies, Turon from Little Italy, fine leather goods, and for her green thumb, a red amaryllis. But Safety Harbor's Gulf of Mexico, producing Christmas time's Cancerian heat in December, had confused this bulb. Amidst the presents and nativity, its empty cradle strewn with straw, green life ripped up, gay mummy wrapping, and tore loose, unhampered by its ground, like Lazarus unbound. My parents, unprepared for ghosts of miracles, became unnerved by sounds newborn right by the creche, the fir tree's base, invisible and inexplicable, like faith or like remission. After Mass, they found a determined amaryllis, force which sleeps but cannot die, that Mother took to heart. And this accidental plant coming alive became one of the tropes when I actually started writing the book. I, as Lisa knows, and as some of you know, I actually had a hardcover book published in England called Apprentice to the Night. And most of the reviewers focused on the few poems about my dying mother. So I thought I should write a separate chapbook. So the hardcover collection came first, and then this chapbook came out of it, thanks to a lot of reviewers who were very encouraging and warm toward these poems. This is called Living Through the Dying, and you'll see that amaryllis raise its head again. Resuscitate the wilted, raise what's close to death. On their lanai, I'm still green at miracles, surrounded by a sky gone cold, thin tendrils, others that curled up in self-protection, living through dying. My mother's crown of thorns, old hens and chicks, impatience, rosary vines, all consigned. I'm trusted to recover favorites, forgotten in ruined glass blades, wisp away, neglect decreeing green, untimely deaths. Hidden in its high hum of red desire, an amaryllis prized, waits, hibernates. And when I put together this collection, I read a lot of other poetry collection surrounded by cancer. And really, there's only two ways to go. One is, I got cancer and I died. One is, I got cancer and I survived it. And this is my wonderful story about it. I was my mother's full-time caregiver, and my mother did die, but I did not want to have that constant decline movement in the poetry collection. So my narrative arc became a funicular. And does everybody know what a funicular is? As one car goes up, the other one counterweighted goes down. So when I got to Tampa to take care of my mother, the plants were in disarray, the house was in disarray, and my mother, of course, was in her end stage of fourth stage cancer. So everything was in a down movement. So as I rescued the plants are now going up to provide the hopeful ending that I need in the collection. So it's not a dreary, mopey collection. I hope that some of you who are not with Prolific Pulse Press will check it out after this reading. This is it's one of the paranormal nonfiction poems in the collection. I was quite exhausted. I had lost a lot of weight, and I was never sleeping through a full night. So my aunts, my mother's sisters, decided to give me a full night's sleep, and they would sleep in my mother's room so I could get a good night's sleep. Well, it did not work out that way, because a ghost visited me and woke me up because there was something going in my mother's room that was going to be catastrophic. And this is that paranormal poem as a sonnet. Early visit from the Grim Reaper. Amid buff blackness of the guest room's drapes, his baritone commanded me to go. What's this about, I want to say, but no, escapes first. I'm staying. There's no cape, no hood, no scythe. Night hides his shrunken shape, revealing just his James Earl Jones audio, repeating, go! Asleep, I'm puzzled, slow to understand. I rise, there's no escape. Lost in the territory of morphine, you turned off your oxygen, approached death's ledge. Observed by him, I help you breathe again. His timing's off, though we'll soon reconvene. A grimace rises from the bedding's edge as if to say, not now, I'll tell you when. And I went into my mother's room. This is not my house. I certainly don't know the terrain in the dark, only to find my aunts fast asleep, like the apostles who were supposed to be waiting with Christ through the night. And my mother had ripped out all of her oxygenator tubes and every other tube that was attached to her, and she would have died by morning. By reconnecting everything, my mother had another 8 days. And I was very surprised the next morning as we all had breakfast. My very Roman Catholic aunts asked me why I did that, because my mother was going to die anyway. I don't know. How could I have seen that, heard that? I was meant to go in there, and I did. This is called Cancer, You Sly Casanova. Cancer is not depicted as the disease in my book. It is depicted as my mother's illicit lover, who is constantly in bed with her, whispering to her, come away with me, leave your family. And the daughter struggles with her ministrations, not only to keep her mother alive, but to fight this boyfriend off. And this is Cancer, You Sly Casanova. Grief wrung our door, its last drops of woe spent, allowing me an about face from bold audacity, its feathers set on fire before evolving into ash and rue. Cancer's devotion, all-consuming, trumped my ministrations, rooting deeper as resistance weakened. Mother fought him off, insisting she was married to her life, unwilling to abandon family and friends for his seductive promises of peace, relief from pain. does not relax dark efforts. Like a gigolo, he teased, urging Mother to succumb. He ransacked her impatient body till she was persuaded to leave us for him, not realizing all Casanovas are interested only in conquest. And this is my last poem. This is called Green Nursemaid. This is my attempt at rescuing all of the plants, which I successfully did. And this is written in a haibun format. Her plants daydream resuscitation, green ribs nudging each other as I approach. Tarnished brass mister in tow, my face no longer a map of sleeplessness and pique, gambling with fate. Plucking away dead leaves, I debride each dusty surface like a wound. Pinch back unruly shoots, inject vitamins, suturing new healthiness into the exhausted potting mixture as deft fingers fly in and out of ceramic pots, a comforting busyness. If I could always have beauty on hand, would my mother love me? There comes a chill. From a dark corner, something stirred, glinting faintly in the exodus of grow lights, boastful, staring, puffed with his power. The entity I cannot extinguish with insect spray. The cancerous worm inside my stricken mother. I whisper the word revive to my filigreed companions, the exquisite eyelash begonias and their less showy, leggy neighbors. Revive, I repeat, over and over like a spell. Indoor sun, last year her voice filled this lanai. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Linda. Last but not least, Ken tomorrow.
I told you I was going to be the odd man out in this one. And I said earlier that I don't have copies of my latest book. So right here, pretend you see You've Got It All Wrong from Prolific Pulse Press. And because I don't have any copies of that, I'm going to read, there you go. I'm going to read some short stories. And I don't think I'm as great at short stories as poetry, so you guys are all my guinea pigs, and I apologize in advance. I remember in the early months of seventh grade coming back to school after the funeral. Although the freshly dark cloud of death hung over my head, the school hallways felt much brighter. It was quiet. The classroom bullies, for once, had nothing to say. I did my best in my short life to blend in with the crowd, and more honestly, to hide, usually walking behind everyone else with my head down. It wasn't enough. The mere act of trying to hide put an even more obvious target on my back, on my chubby little belly, on my tiny legs that weren't fast enough to run from it all. Our family was poor, and when you're poor, there is no way to hide it. My pants were always hand-me-downs and always too short. Floods, they called them. My shirts were too small. My hair always had a cowlick. My face was always broken out, and I remember my aunt saying to my mother once how she wondered if I had impetigo. We weren't a family of regular bathers. Sunday night was bath night. Though the water ran freely through the pipes, it wasn't free. And to look at us, you would have thought the pipes had already run dry. By all accounts, our little corner house on the quiet street of White Oaks gave nothing away. While small and unassuming, it was kept up. The grass was cut, the roof was solid. The neighborhood kids came to our backyard to sled down in the winter. Flowers and pachysandra grew all along the front and sides of the house in the summer. But when we walked out the door, when the green Chevy Malibu backed out of the garage, dropping pieces of rust along the way, people just knew. How could I blame the bullies? They were simply wild animals pecking for the next meal, and I was a fat little steak sitting in the open, ready to be ripped apart. As I was walking towards the homeroom, I half expected to see everyone pointing at the poor kid, now with a freshly deceased mother. But it was quiet, and no one had anything to say, except my best friend. He stopped me in the hallway a few minutes before the bell rang to let me know he was sorry my mother died. Thanks, I said. We're moving to Indiana next week. I remember the look of surprise on his face. We were 12 years old. None of us knew what it was, the idea of concern or sorrow for another living being, but his look was genuine. I don't remember a time since anyone has carried a general concern for my well-being. Uh, this one,
Nice. I
just
like
got,
that.
yeah, thanks. This one just got published in Spillwords a couple of days ago, called My Lack of Sleep. 11 p.m. and I awake for no reason. I roll over on my right side, staring at the ghost dancing across the wall. In a dreamlike stupor, my brain tells me this is wrong. Half asleep, almost brain dead, my body instinctively rolls over on my left side before melting into the soft mattress, and I quickly fall to sleep. 1 a.m., and I am awake again, and once more at 5 a.m. I know it is 5 a.m. by where the shadow of the streetlight in the alley glides along the wall of my bedroom. It is a restless world at the moment, and something or someone doesn't want me to sleep. At midnight, I awaken, not to the normal bumps in the night, but to a jolt through my whole body, an imaginary prison guard angrily waking me for roll call. Confusion briefly washes over me, along with the erratic beating of my heart against chest wall. For no other reason than the cruelty of it, they wake me unfailingly at 3 a.m., again at 4:15. I haven't the energy to fight back, nor is it a fight I can win, so I take the abuse that comes and find sleep when I can. The shadow off the window blinds creates an image of prison bars as I drift off. My mind is a bored teenager in constant need of attention. At 2 a.m., it wakes me up as if to say, "Come on, let's do something." I brush it off and promptly fall back to sleep. Still bored, it wakes me at 3:30 and again at 5:45. Your boredom isn't my fucking problem. I'm trying to sleep, I scold. If you know anything about teenagers, is that they are incessant in their boredom, relentless. I fall asleep with one eye open and irritated, waking up seconds later to the sound of my alarm. I wake up choking on my own breath. It is 4 a.m., and there is a slight pulsating, almost goosebumpish feeling running like a current through my body. It has the same intensity as an airplane pushing down the runway just before takeoff. It is an ominous feeling, slightly uneasy, the familiar feeling of anxiety. I am somewhere between the dream world and the real world and wonder to myself what I should feel anxious about when seconds before my mind and body were dead asleep. In the midst of my anxiety, I raise one leg in the air and shake it violently for a brief moment before doing the same with the other leg. I pull my arm from under the covers and do the same, followed by the other arm. My body again instinctively takes over, and I shake through the head and neck, then my torso, hips, etc. To anyone who might witness this, it looks rather foolish, but I was told that this is what animals do after trauma as a natural way to release stress and tension. We are all animals and do what we do to shake things off. Common lore tells us the spirits come out around 3 a.m., sometimes called the witching hour. It is this otherworldly time in the early hours when the veil between the living and the spirit world is thought to be thinnest. A loved one comes to us with a gentle tap. Another spirit wakes you, causing you to remember where you left your car keys. And yet another wakes you for no other reason than to be facetious. At most, they are mildly irritating, yet harmless. But these are not just any spirits. These are the demons I sleep with nightly, the 4 horsemen of my apocalypse. The quiet hours for most are nothing to me but a constant battle between my mind and myself. It is a war I cannot win. Well, do I have time for one more?
Yes, please do.
I was going to set a timer and I forgot to set the timer. No title for this one. The sun was rubbing a crusty sleep from its eyes. I was sitting on the toilet doing the same. Everything was going smoothly, and a thought popped in my head as I stared at the white flecked tile on the wall in front of me. It was a long, glassy-eyed glaze. The thought was that someone else had lived in this apartment before me, and someone else before them. I don't know why this never occurred to me. Maybe because their memories and all the memories before had been painted over several times. The carpet had seen better days. It was flat and lifeless, and I could feel many uneven spots in the subfloor under my feet. The sterile white walls and near dead beige carpet seemed by design to keep any life or memories from coming to the surface. With each new tenant, the space was a blank slate. The thought of other people occupying my space stuck in my head through my entire morning ritual. Did they have factory jobs? Did they come home stinking of sulfur and welded metals? I made the assumption that they were an older couple, married couple, most likely of Polish or Italian descent. The husband spent his days standing on the slick cement floor of a metal factory surrounded by metal dust and shavings. 8 hours and plenty of overtime, welding, cutting, and punching large sheets of metal as the dust quietly and unknowingly settled in his lungs. The wife spent her days doing all sorts of things. On Tuesday, she might spend hours nursing a large pot of tomato sauce or some stuffed cabbages on the stove. These things could be a little time-consuming and needed just the right amount of love. Pot was large enough to feed a family of 6, even though it was only the 2 of them. In between stirring and adjusting the gas on the burners, she would call her sister on the phone. They would talk for hours in their native Polish tongue. If her sister was unavailable, she might spend a few hours watching soap operas to pass the time. Their home was rather quiet, except for some brief conversation during dinner. After dinner, he would sit in his chair with the TV on. She would finish the dinner dishes and sit next to him in her own chair, neither paying attention to the television, he dozing on and off, and she knitting a hat or scarf. It wasn't a loveless marriage by any means, just one of comfortable routine. This was their daily life, surrounded by the sparse white walls of what they called a home. There was a single black and white photo hung above the kitchen table of a scene from the old country. Other than that, the walls were empty. To them, it wasn't about a life that covered the walls, but the life between the walls that mattered.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tim. I'm glad you decided to read those. Would you like to pick a number between? Let's congratulate Linda Ann on her winning 2 awards. You want to talk about that, Linda, a little bit tell us about your awards?
It was really, really wonderful and quite startling because when I made the book trailer, I had a nomination certificate, and some of the people at Prolific Pulse Press said, well, when are they going to judge this? When are they going to judge this? And of course, you never have any idea. And then all of a sudden, after we got the cover finished and we got it on Amazon, wow, it came through. It was quite a surprise, Lisa, that it happened so fast, right?
Yes, it would.
And the reviews on both of the awards were really quite lengthy and quite detailed. And there are certain reviews that really teach you about yourself. For example, Lisa negotiated a wonderful review by Peter Mladnick.
That's right.
Mladnick. And his interesting review said that cancer wasn't just courting the mother, it was also courting the daughter, and brought that into my focus, how he saw that viewpoint. And the reviews that I got with the award, 2 really spectacular, gracefully written reviews. In the day of AI, it's such a pleasure to see people who actually read the book and responded to it. And nobody has noticed the funicular arc in the book yet, but people have noticed that it's made up of a wide variety of formal verse. And the reason behind that is because cancer, if anybody has battled it or you've known anyone who has, there's always false cues. You think someone's recovering. The few days before my mother stopped talking were days of enormous appetite and rosy colored cheeks, and she was hungry all the time. And we knew this is a false cue. We're not really going to get a miracle, but you always hope, well, maybe it is a miracle, and she's eating and everything is wonderful. And then the next day, the cancer went into her liver. And I wanted to express this disjointedness by throwing out acrostic poems, haibun, haiku to pass the time, Petrarchan sonnets, all different types to resemble the different stages, the different steps that are always so uncertain, throwing things at the reader that you don't know what to expect on the page. It's not the predictable hum of like all sonnets or all free verse and everything. I hope that comes across when you read it. The disjointedness is there for a reason, to mimic the disjointedness. Also, the fact that it was right before the internet era when I was nursing my mother, and whether it had been or hadn't been, my parents didn't have a computer in the house. So I was totally cut off from everybody. And you're thrown into these situations. I have no nursing background, and you're just doing the best you can with your very, very limited knowledge. And it felt like being on an island with just instinct telling me what to do. I had this big spreadsheet for my mother's medicines and the patch and the Roxanol and sorts of things. And the whole idea of being very unsettled, I wanted to make the readers feel unsettled, but also feel that they were in good, solid hands to structure this story in a way that would make sense to somebody who wasn't in the room. And having those awards coming with those wonderful reviews made me feel very seen and know that they got it.
Congratulations, Lord. Linda,
Thank you.
thank you so much. I do have an announcement to make. I have the list of nominees for the Pushcart Prize that I'll be submitted in about a week. I'll be sending them in. All of the people who were nominated had submitted and been accepted in the Social Possibilities Anthology. So the nominees for this time are Michael Ingram, Roberta Batorsky, Rita Anderson, Ivan Salazar, Moon Samantha, and Laura Lee Clark. So congratulations. We got a couple people in this room that are in that. Zan helped me select this list, and I appreciate that help. I have a hard time every year with the Pushcart because I read a lot of poetry, publish a lot of poetry. It's hard to narrow it down to 6 people. So thanks again, Zan, for helping me. And if you're going to be published in Unhoused, there'll be contracts going out by the end of the week. So if you had received an acceptance and are expecting a contract, you'll get it by Friday. Anybody have any parting thoughts before we close?
Can I just ask which poem of mine?
I don't have it written down. So
okay.
You'll have to wait.
Because I had 2 and I just was wondering which one.
Yeah, I have it in my head that I can't remember the title. You know, I can
Thank you
picture
so
the poem,
much.
but I can't remember the title. So
Zan's gonna find it. I just saw her pick up the book.
I just opened the book. I'm gonna see. Look. Is it in alphabetical order? I can't remember.
Yes, everybody's in alphabetical.
Laura Lee Clark, isn't it
Uh-huh.
Clark? Bear with me.
Oh, I'll bear with you forever.
I love that. Okay, let's see.
He's gonna have a hard
Was
time
it
narrowing
Lisa?
down.
Is it When Capitalism Says?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm
Love that
asking
poem.
Lisa
Thank
to
you.
confirm. Are you confirming, Lisa? That's the
I am
one?
confirming that's what it is.
Okay.
I knew it had something about the word
Thank you so
capitalism.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You had a
Well,
great
thank you.
pool to choose from, Lisa. And
I did.
congratulations, Laura Lee. This is
Tough.
fabulous.
It's tough to narrow it down. And I have if I nominate a person for a push cart, they don't get renominated by me. So that's your one shot.
Yes.
You have to wait till 20.
It's a good shot. I feel good about it. I'm happy.
I know.
But thank you all so much for coming out tonight. I really enjoyed this. What's better than an evening of listening to me poetry and stories? And I really enjoy this. And
hearing the recitations and readings. And is it Ken who read short stories?
Yes.
Thanks for using us as your guinea pigs, because that was awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming out tonight for our poetry party. We'll do this
Thanks
again.
for hosting us. This was great.
Yeah.
Let me start doing
Fabulous, fabulous. Prime people for their holiday buying.
Yep.
There you go. Get to prolificpulse.com and buy those books.
Yes. Great.
And thank you, Linda Ann. This was her idea.
Awesome.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
All right. Good night. Bye, everybody.